Amid the chaos of the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, one quiet moment resonated the loudest. A single sentence from Lewis Hamilton, spoken calmly over the team radio, turned into an emotional explosion that shook the Ferrari garage to its core. It wasn't just about strategy or speed. It was about pride, old rivalries, and the pressure that had been building up. So, what exactly was Hamilton's message, and why did race engineer Riccardo Adami look so devastated? Let's discuss it, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. At the Spanish Grand Prix, a circuit sweltering with sun and history, a voice cut through the air like a knife. You want me to let him pass as well? It was Lewis Hamilton, and with those 6 words, he opened a new chapter in Ferrari's 2025 drama. It wasn't just a race. It was a power struggle. And, as always, F1 radio wasn't just a communication tool. It was a reflection of an invisible war. Since leaving Mercedes and saying goodbye to his loyal engineer, Peter Bonington, Hamilton has changed more than just teams. He has stepped into a minefield. Ferrari is the most legendary and political team in the paddock. There, amid the hustle and bustle of Maranello, he inherited an outdated structure that was not entirely ready for change. Riccardo Adami, a senior engineer and long-standing technical partner of Charles Leclerc, was now under great pressure. This was not because he was the ideal fit for Lewis Hamilton, but for a deeper reason: Ferrari's internal heritage. He was part of an outdated system that had been maintained not because of effective communication, but because of its long-standing presence. Tensions between the two began to mount from the outset. In Miami, Hamilton made a cutting remark over the team radio. "Have a tea break while you're at it." It wasn't just a joke. It was a quip conveying frustration. Although the words sounded casual, they actually conveyed a deep dissatisfaction with the way things were not running smoothly. The tensions escalated further during the race in Monaco. This time, Hamilton's tone was more personal. "Are you upset with me or something?" he asked, part question, part demand. But Adami didn't answer. It wasn't a technical glitch or confusion. His silence spoke volumes. It was a sign that their communication wasn't healthy. It was a sign that their working relationship was beginning to fray and perhaps had never really meshed in the first place. Race after race, it became clear that the cracks in the team's relationship were more than just rumors or figments of the imagination. In Miami, despite Hamilton's speed, Ferrari chose to delay the order that would have allowed Leclerc to overtake. This seemingly small decision was actually starting to create hidden tension. Then, in Monaco, when asked by Hamilton, Adami's moment of silence became a symbol of the widening rift of trust within the team. The silence was not without meaning. It was a sign that something was changing behind the scenes and that the team's solidarity was beginning to fray. Then, in Spain, the rift nearly erupted into an open crisis. A technical problem with the gears that appeared and then disappeared suddenly became the flashpoint that sparked the conflict. When Adami asked Hamilton to pit, he firmly refused. "I can do the start, dude. It's fine," he said, sounding casual. However, in the context of Ferrari's internal politics, it was a very serious act of defiance. It wasn't just a matter of disobeying an order. It was a declaration of power and a challenge to authority. Hamilton wasn't refusing out of sheer ego. His refusal stemmed from a deeper disillusionment. He had lost faith in the voice in his headset and those who were supposed to support him. It was no longer a matter of technicality or racing strategy, but of control. Who really held the baton of command within the team? In that battle, the fault lines began to show, threatening the stability that had been so carefully maintained. As usual, Ferrari denied it. "Nothing is wrong," they said. Everything was fine. Communication was going well and the team atmosphere was positive. But everyone in the paddock knew it was all just for show. Veteran journalists didn't just hear the official answers. They picked up on the unspoken things, the changes in tone on the radio, the overly long pauses and the overly stiff gestures. Juan Pablo Montoya, a former racing driver known for his brutality and rudeness, did not hesitate to speak up. "If it were me, I'd have pulled Adami's ears," he said matter-of-factly. For Montoya, such silence was not a sign of professionalism, but rather passive-aggressive sabotage. It was a gesture of disobedience disguised as calm. At Ferrari, the person who becomes the leader is not necessarily the one who appears most often on camera or speaks loudest. Leadership at Maranello is more subtle and cunning, determined by who controls the narrative. And Lewis Hamilton, with all his coolness, calmness, intelligence, and charisma, is slowly rewriting Ferrari's grand script. In a few words, but with meaning, Lewis Hamilton is no ordinary newcomer. He is a true disruptor, a living legend who has come not just to race, but to rewrite history in a hallowed land long inhabited by loyalists of the past. At Ferrari, Charles Leclerc is the golden boy, a symbol of hope and legacy. Riccardo Adami, on the other hand, was a loyal soldier, part of an old structure that was not easily displaced. But what about Hamilton? He was a threat to the status quo, a shadow of change lurking between the walls of tradition. However, Hamilton knew that not all revolutions begin with a shout or a loud bang. Sometimes, the greatest change comes from silence, from a pause on the radio, from a simple yet meaningful question, from a subtle rejection that shakes old foundations, and from a single sentence that cut through the paddock like a bolt of lightning in the Maranello sky. I'm in the lead now. Lewis Hamilton didn't join Ferrari just to fit in. He wasn't just another guest looking for a place in the system. He came to take over, to effect change from within. Every second that he ignored or rejected the radio, every strategic decision that he disregarded, was no spontaneous act. It was a brick in the building of his own empire. He was preparing his ranks. Not just technicians, but loyalists, men who understood not just his cars, but his vision. Men who were prepared to fight for him, not the prancing horse badge. And Adami? He is not an ally of Hamilton's. He is a remnant of an era that Hamilton wants to put behind him. A legacy of the past that is no longer relevant. In Lewis Hamilton's view, irrelevance means replaceability. At Mercedes, Peter Bonington was more than just a race engineer. He was a shield, a protector, and a general, standing behind the scenes, weathering the storm and providing direction. In contrast, at Ferrari, Adami is a faint voice on the radio, full of doubt. He is an advisor who no longer has a place in the grand narrative that Hamilton wants to write. Hamilton no longer needs to shout to be heard. His mere presence on the track creates eye-opening moments, forcing the world to pay attention to what is really going on inside Ferrari. When the pressure from outside began to mount on the red team and the top brass at Ferrari headquarters started to question who was responsible for their repeated failures, Lewis had his answer ready. I warned you from the start. But you chose not to listen. The warnings were not empty threats. This was made clear at the Monaco circuit and confirmed again in the intense Spanish race. Each subsequent race without any real change only serves to reinforce the danger. This is not just a matter of miscommunication between drivers and their teams. It is about re-establishing power and dominance in the cruel and uncompromising world of Formula One. Hamilton understands the rules of the game very well. In Formula One, trust cannot be taken for granted. It must be fought for, forced, and even taken by unexpected means if necessary. Hamilton is not just a driver. He is a real threat, ready to shake Ferrari's foundations and turn things around at any moment. Given the tension and dynamics involved, it's clear that the story behind the Ferrari radio is not just about racing strategy, but also about power struggles and inevitable change. The question now is whether Ferrari will be able to adapt to the changes brought about by Hamilton. Share your thoughts in the comments below.